Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host, speaking at you from Sunday, January 4th, 2026, in the space and time continuum. And, of course, everything got blown up Saturday morning, when Trump invaded Venezuela. I didn't know for sure what I was going to talk about. I thought I might take a break this week, but then this happened, and I just want to come on and point out that this is still about the Epstein files. This is still the mafioso trying to avoid being revealed worldwide. That is what this is about. Nicolas Maduro, the guy who was just kidnapped by Donald Trump, was shown being escorted into the courthouse in New York City with his thumbs up. He was saying, Happy New Year to everybody. He looked like he was having a blast. He looked like, yeah, this is according to the plan that we had years ago. And this is the next move. I've been assured that everything's going to be fine. That's what he looked like. Let's go back in time to 2019. Do you remember the name Fiona Hill? Russia expert Fiona Hill warns that American democracy is under attack from within. This is in 2019, during the first Trump term. In November 2019, Fiona Hill became one of the key witnesses at then-President Donald Trump's first impeachment hearing, where she condemned the false narrative that it was Ukraine, not Russia, that interfered in the 2016 election, and described the Trump administration's parallel policy channel in Ukraine to get dirt on Joe and Hunter Biden. Okay, are we remembering this? The first impeachment. This is right before COVID broke. And we were all talking about impeaching Donald Trump because he tried to withhold military weapons from Ukraine unless the brand new President Zelensky in Ukraine would announce that he is starting an investigation on Hunter Biden. Do you remember this? This was the dull headache of the news back at the end of 2019. Fiona Hill worked in the Trump White House as the top Russia expert. She watched Russian President Vladimir Putin manipulate Trump, she says, and observed as Trump increasingly resembled the authoritarian leaders that he admired. Now let's go a little deeper into this. She oversaw interactions pertaining to Europe and NATO, as well as Russia, Turkey, and Ukraine. She was the National Security Council, with the National Security Council as a senior director with the National Security Council since early 2017. During that time, she observed sloppy security practices, manipulations, internal score setting, and targeted leaks to undermine colleagues, along with lack of transparency in communications and unclear lines of command within the Trump regime back in 2017, 18, and 19. She expressed appreciation for the initial shift in policies, with Donald Trump providing more robust aid for Ukraine. But then the president abruptly blocked that aid without reason for 2 months while Ukrainians continued fighting the Russians in their eastern border. It goes on, and this gets pretty complicated. But she talks about a plan where Vladimir Putin said basically that Donald Trump keeps the Western Hemisphere. He can have Venezuela as long as he keeps his hands off of Ukraine. Is that why Donald Trump withheld the aid that he was supposed to be giving Ukraine back then? Is that what Fiona Hill saw happening? She's not the only one back in 2019 who was talking about that. It is now spreading to other places where it's a three-way split with China, Russia, and the United States. This seems to be what is happening in Venezuela. Maduro, I don't know, does he own land now in the Middle East? Like maybe Trump has a deal with the Middle East to go there and live for the rest of their lives? I don't think Donald Trump's going to make it there because I think the rest of his life is going to be very short-lived for health reasons. I'm not saying that he's going to be, taken out. But yeah, we go back in time to that. Now, also, yesterday was the deadline for the DOJ to explain their redactions. Okay, the Oversight Committee, the Oversight Democrats, being led by Robert Garcia, who is kicking ass over there, making things happen, but still not enough. The thing is they're breaking the law over and over, but nothing is being enforced. And now that's spreading worldwide. We're seeing this worldwide cabal, this worldwide sort of mafioso of leaders across the whole world. People like Marco Rubio, Kristi Noem, Pete Kegbreath, the people in the cabinet have no idea what to do because they're not really a part of this. Marco Rubio confirmed that this invasion into Venezuela had been leaked to the New York Times and the Washington Post because of the ineptitude of the Trump regime. Who was it leaked by? Probably Kegbreath. He's done it before. This put lives in danger. Now, the New York Times and the Washington Post decided to not report on it for hours and let it happen without them reporting that it was going to happen because they didn't want to risk the lives of U.S. military personnel. U.S. military personnel who supposedly went into Venezuela and came back out unscathed with the president of the country and his wife? This was planned. Maduro knew this was happening. They were let in and let out with the president of the country. Also, Marco Rubio said he doesn't know what's happening next. There is no answer to who is in charge. And there were contradictions between Marco Rubio and Kristi Noem on some of the Sunday shows this morning. Asking, what is next? Oh, we don't know. So what's going on in Venezuela today? People are raiding grocery stores because they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if there's going to be more military strikes, quote unquote. It's very unclear exactly what happened. Rubio saying this isn't a war. Well, Trump is saying we had boots on the ground in a big way last night. And Marco Rubio saying, well, this isn't a war. We didn't have to ask Congress for this because this isn't a war. This is just an arrest. By the way, we're probably going to do something in Cuba next. Well, Trump is saying we're going to do something in other country. He's naming other countries. I think we're up to like 3 or 4 now that you better watch your ass. So Trump is kind of going crazy. I imagine Putin's over there going, oh, this guy, he's stupid. You can't just, I can't do a Russian accent very well, but Trump seems to think that he owns the whole Western Hemisphere now. That's what this deal is. He retweeted a meme, or whatever you want to call it, of him with one foot on Canada and the other foot on South America. So is Canada next? Canada thinks it's possible. They're getting ready. They're getting ready for America to strike Canada. I just want to tell you that, first of all, they're being absolute idiots. Trump is an idiot. Marco Rubio, I don't think he's an idiot, but his hands are tied behind his back. Trump said that Marco Rubio just got off the phone with Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, and that she was willing to do whatever they needed her to do because they are now going to run the country, meaning, I guess, Donald Trump said Marco Rubio and Pete Kegbreath are going to be running Venezuela right now, and that the Vice President, Delcy Rodriguez, is going to do whatever they want her to do. Within 2 hours, she had her statement of, no, what? No. Maduro is the only president of this country. And she had all of the cabinet, what is the equivalent of the cabinet and military around her, all looking like, no, screw Donald Trump. We are not going to be, she put it, we're not going to be a colony of any other country, accusing America of trying to colonize Venezuela. Donald Trump says it's about oil. Now, of course, he also said it's about it, the whole reason for it is because of drugs and national security, because they're killing Americans with fentanyl. But then he says, no, we're going to go in and we're going to seize the oil and then we're going to sell it for cheap. Meaning, of course, to Russia, to try and save Russia in their war against Ukraine, because Russia is not doing well. I'll do a little bit of an update on the Ukraine-Russian war, maybe in the second half here. But I just kind of want to talk about how this is not something, it's not good. I'm not saying it's nothing to bat an eye at. I'm not saying that it's not scary, but we shouldn't be scared. This is only going to bring the demise of Donald Trump closer. Now, it's extremely frustrating because what's Congress doing? Now, of course, this happened on holiday week. The way the holidays fell this year kind of made everything shut down for more than 2 weeks. Christmas Eve being on a Wednesday and Christmas Day being on a Thursday, and then the same with New Year's Eve and New Year's Day the following week. Everything shut down the week before Christmas, and nothing is starting up until the week after New Year's. This is more than a 2-week period of time where Washington, D.C. is basically closed down. What could Congress do other than go on TV or podcasts or something? We'll have to see what starts happening this coming week. I know Robert Garcia is pissed off because yesterday was the deadline for the DOJ to explain their redactions in the Epstein files. Are they going to subpoena Pam Bondi to testify? And if they do, will she testify? These are the things that I'm just getting so fed up with, and I know you are as well. I was getting texts saying, where the hell is Congress when Trump was doing this in Venezuela? By the way, Russians or Republicans, what's the difference, right? Republicans are kind of torn. Some of them are saying that they're glad Maduro is gone, and they're expecting Maria Corina Machado, who is the opposition party leader against Maduro. Half of them are saying that they expect her to take charge. But in reality, the Maduro government is still in charge, apparently, because Delcy Rodriguez, his self-appointed vice president, has taken charge. So there is no change. There's no regime change, quote unquote. There's no change of leadership. It's just that Nicolas Maduro is now in New York City with his thumbs up, smiling, saying Happy New Year to everybody, because he knows he's about to be taken care of. He doesn't have to fear for his life in Venezuela anymore. He's been saved by Donald Trump in accordance with the plan that they all have. Putin, Netanyahu, Iran, Venezuela, other places. By the way, Iran might be having regime change going on right now. And if that happens, it's going to shift a lot of things in the Ukraine and Russian war. And already Venezuela, already Maduro, this upset in Venezuela is already changing things in the war in Ukraine and Russia. There is more to talk about. There is more to go back in time to review, because we have to remember this move in Venezuela is to distract from the Epstein files. The Epstein files is a worldwide thing. It's not just Donald Trump, although he is the leader. I'm seeing more and more people saying, how many times was Epstein on Trump Island? That is the correct way of thinking of this. Trump is in charge. I'm going to tell you a story that further supports that. When we come back from a short break, you're listening to A Satellite View. We'll be right back. And we're back on A Satellite View. Find us on YouTube by going to YouTube and searching for Satellite View Podcast, and then subscribe for our channel. It's free. Find our website, satelliteviewpodcast.com, and find me at Todd Mikkelson on Instagram, Blue Sky. Yeah, I can still be found on Twitter, and although I don't really go there much, I don't know. Where else? Follow me on all the places. We are getting more attention and a lot more views on a lot of our clips, which is good. And also, by the way, Facebook is one place where we're getting many, many, many views. It's astounding. And I go through the comments, and they're positive. They're very overwhelmingly positive. It's not a bunch of trolls anymore. I think the day of the trolls and the bots are kind of done. I don't know, you might disagree. Maybe I'm saying that because I don't go on Twitter as much, but they're at least useless. People skip over them. I don't think they have their potency anymore. So that's changes that are going on that I think are positive. But that's a whole nother subject. Let's get into why I'm saying that Trump is actually, these should be called the Trump files. Epstein was not the leader of this cabal. Trump was and is. And that's why these things are occurring. And that's why the DOJ is not releasing the Epstein files. This is a bigger cover-up than Watergate. And it's in plain sight. At least Nixon was trying to hide the fact that he was doing a cover-up. That's the whole way you do a cover-up. This cover-up is like, is it a cover-up? Because when you know it's a cover-up, is it a cover-up? But so far it's being successful in suppressing information. However, there is still absolutely devastating, damning information coming out against Donald Trump. But a lot of it came out over this holiday period. By the way, so did the Jack Smith testimony, released in the evening of New Year's Eve. All right, how many people are watching the news going into the evening of New Year's Eve? And they release an more than 8 hour video of his testimony. So we've not even begun to deal with this stuff. A lot of people think it's all been shoved under the rug because of this Venezuela attack. No. Ask Robert Garcia if he's sweeping anything under the rug. Now let's go back in time again. All the way back to, let's say, like 2002. Now the Trump administration is saying that Donald Trump kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago because he was being a creep. Then he said he was stealing girls from the spa, including Giuffre. That's the story then he was going with. But there are contradictory stories. So there was a new story that came out that somebody, an 18-year-old, actually reported the fact that Donald Trump was sending underage girls to go to Jeffrey Epstein's house. Even though Jeffrey Epstein was not a paying member of Mar-a-Lago, he was getting the benefits of Mar-a-Lago and then some, because he had a special request. No, I want these girls who work at Mar-a-Lago to come over to my house and give me a massage. And then, of course, he would sexually assault them. And an 18-year-old girl reported it in Mar-a-Lago. So now Trump is like, okay, let's go with this story. That's why he banned Jeffrey Epstein. And that occurred in 2002, I believe. Now let's go a little ahead from there to 2004. In 2004, do you remember this story? There was a mansion, a gaudy, gross, horribly designed mansion that all these idiots loved, that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and all these, what you want to call them, oligarchs or whatever they are. They love this kind of gaudy BS. It's like what you would see, basically on The Sopranos, the dining room, living room of The Sopranos, because it's gaudy mobster BS, like gross 1986 looking mobster BS. Now, Jeffrey Epstein put a bid in for $35 million for this property and this gaudy piece of crap mansion in Palm Beach. He asked Donald Trump to come and say, how can I move the pool? Donald Trump saw it and then outbid Jeffrey Epstein and got it. Went behind Jeffrey Epstein's back and bid $40 million and bought it. Out from under Jeffrey Epstein. This is what pissed Jeffrey Epstein off quite a bit. Quite a bit. That's why Jeffrey Epstein said that they broke up. Jeffrey Epstein knew that Donald Trump did not have $40 million. All right? These guys don't actually have real money. I don't understand exactly what it is, but all these multi-billionaires, they don't actually have money. And Jeffrey Epstein knew Trump did not have the money. Trump got the money from Dmitry Robolovlev, something like that, a Russian oligarch who is a multi-billionaire because he sold fertilizer in Russia, supposedly. Now, that guy ended up then buying that property from Donald Trump in 2008 for $95 million. So Donald Trump only owned this property for a couple of years, and then this Russian oligarch bought it for $95 million. It was not worth $95 million. It wasn't worth $40 million. Why did this guy buy it for $95 million? It was all a money trafficking thing. That's what these mobsters, worldwide mobster cabal that Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, this Russian oligarch, and a lot of other leaders of countries, Netanyahu, not even Netanyahu, but other past leaders of Israel, they're all mobsters. It's a worldwide mobster cabal. And that was nothing but money laundering. That guy, Dmitry Robolovlev, made no money on it. He lost millions and millions of dollars on that. It wasn't about trying to make money. It wasn't about an investment. It was money laundering, period. After this happened, and Jeffrey Epstein's pissed off at Donald Trump, and Jeffrey Epstein knows about this Dmitry Robolovlev money laundering thing, Donald Trump panics and has him arrested back in 2007, 2006, when Jeffrey Epstein was first arrested, and then he got the sweetheart deal or whatever it's called and got let out again. But Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein said he dropped the dime on me. He thinks Donald Trump is the one who had him arrested. Donald Trump went to the police and said, hey, that guy is sexually assaulting girls in his home. I'll leave out the part about that I am as well. But Donald Trump is still making calls to Jeffrey Epstein in 2008. So now Michael Wolff comes about in 2016, and he starts writing books about Donald Trump. In his second book, he tells this story because by that time, Jeffrey Epstein calls Michael Wolff and says, hey, I got stories to tell you too. Michael Wolff writes the story I just told you in his book that comes out in the summer of 2019. Jeffrey Epstein is in France, and he calls Michael Wolff and says, I'm afraid I said too much to you. I'm afraid I'm going to get myself in trouble here. I spoke too much. He comes back from France and gets arrested at the airport once he steps into the United States in New Jersey. He gets arrested. He's sent to a prison. And within 2 weeks, he's dead. Who's the guy who's running this mobster cabal? The guy who died, supposedly committed suicide while he was under suicide watch in a federal prison under the Trump DOJ of the time? Is he the guy who was running it? No, he's not the guy who was running it. How many times was Jeffrey Epstein at the Trump Island? This hit on Venezuela is a distraction from the Epstein files. Trump has a responsibility to all of these mobster bosses across the whole world, and they can see it slipping. They can see him slipping. He's getting more and more desperate in his maneuvers to try and make sure this information does not come out, because it's not just going to be about Donald Trump. It's going to be about a lot of very powerful people in the world that Donald Trump has a responsibility to, because he is overseeing whatever this is. The underage pedophilia sexual part of it is a small part of it. All of this information is going to remain coming out. It's going to keep coming out. By the way, Ron DeSantis is in the midst of being busted for stealing $35 million from hospital funds. Money that was supposed to go to hospitals in Florida. Ron DeSantis is skimming $35 million off of those funds. He's in the process of being busted for that. That didn't make the news. Also, the fact that Iran right now is having incredible protests that switched from kind of protests against how bad the economy was over there to now regime change. And when Iran topples, when the regime change happens, Iran probably will no longer be able to support Russia in their war against Ukraine. Iran is providing a lot of drones that Russia's using to send in to Ukraine and kill babies. That's what Russia's doing. While Ukraine is blowing up military assets. Also, with the fall of Venezuela, Russia is losing some of their ability to defend themselves, kind of what you would call in the rear, way on the back, like on the other side of where all the fighting's going on. Let's look at Jason J. Smart and some headlines. Moscow safe zone broke. Russia is now wide open. Anna from Ukraine has a headline about that as well. Putin's safe house panic exposes his deepest fear. The strike Russia can't admit but can't fix. Putin's mafia state exposed. Russia sabotage is a lot of sabotage going on in Russia by Russians. The Shadow Fleet is arrested. I haven't gone that deep into that. With Maduro gone, now Budanov targets Putin's rear. That's a complicated story, but a new head of the military has been appointed by Zelensky, this guy Budanov, who is a very tough guy and very effective. And he has gone basically behind the front lines and hitting Russia where they didn't think they could be hit. Russia's intel web shatters worldwide. Anna from Ukraine just today, Russia without heat. A lot of towns in the outback sort of Russia are being ignored by the Putin regime because on New Year's Eve, Moscow itself, no electricity and no internet on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. There's so much here. Russia ATMs block large cash withdrawals. Russia export oil gas canceled. This Venezuela, Donald Trump is just too stupid to understand that he's upsetting an awful lot of stuff that's going on here that's possibly going to get him in trouble with a lot of these other leaders. Russia has no way of telling when they're being bombed anymore or when missiles are coming in. That's another thing that's going on with all of this. But of course, it keeps going on. It keeps going on. And that is the thing that is frustrating all of us. So we need to take care of ourselves. Don't get too trapped in the news. My friend Doug said that he gave the news a break for a few days and it felt really good. He's trying to stay up on things, but for a couple days at least, he was under the weather and he just didn't watch the news. And he said it was great for his psyche. So be careful what news you're listening to. Right now, ABC, CBS, NBC, they're doing an okay job of questioning the Trump regime. And like Marco Rubio got grilled, Kristi Noem got grilled pretty well by some of the people on the Sunday morning shows. But really, go to Midas Touch if you want to know what's going on. There are a lot of people in the Midas Touch network that do know what's going on. Find these people in Ukraine, Jason J. Smart, Anna from Ukraine, if you want to find out more on that subject. They have in-depth videos on all these headlines that I keep going through. Now, we don't know what's going on in Venezuela because our news isn't really doing the greatest job of telling us. But it sounds like nobody knows what's going on in Venezuela. But always remember, this is still Trump trying to run away. Jack Smith, by the way, he might be able to talk about the second part of his report, which is the Mar-a-Lago, why did Trump have all of the country's secrets stashed in Mar-a-Lago's bathroom? Because he was selling it. Jack Smith's video still has not been dealt with. Everybody's been on break. Okay, tomorrow, hopefully, things will start to get rolling again. Congress will start to get rolling again. Put pressure on your Congress people to do something. Right now, the President of the United States and all of his minions are breaking law after law after law. Why is nothing being enforced? It's very frustrating. I still have a lot of hope for the future. I think this information is going to come out. I think we're going to find out about the 2024 election. Donald Trump is talking about the 2020 election again. I don't think it's smart for him to bring that up because it'll lead to questions about other elections. By the way, everyone thinks that Maria Corina Machado won the 2024 election in Venezuela. So, 2024 elections. Okay. There's obviously a lot to talk about. I've gone over time here, and I feel like I have only barely touched the surface. But I hope I was giving you information that you didn't know or maybe forgot about that I think is relevant to what is going on now. We need to remember what has happened in the past to see how deep this whole thing goes. The fact that we're on the cusp of this Epstein information coming out, and by the way, a lot of horrible information is coming out, and you can find it not on ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, or whatever they're called now. Not there, not CNN. But there are places you can find it. Again, go to Midas Touch Network on YouTube. It's a lot worse than we thought, and there are stories already out. That's what we need to pay attention to. That's what Donald Trump hopes this thing in Venezuela is going to take attention away from. This is still all about the Epstein files. I will let you go. Thank you so much for listening. Let's stick together and help each other get through this. I think it's going to be more of a frustrating period here where a lot of people, I think, are going to be scared, but you and I don't need to be. We're going to keep our eye on the ball here, all right? These people are too stupid to ruin our existence. We're not going to let them mess up our lives. Take good care of yourself. Do the things you want to do in your life. See the people you want to see. These people don't have the power anymore. It is coming down. It really is. I know it doesn't feel like it. I know it doesn't feel like it, but this thing going on in Venezuela is not good for Donald Trump. It is not good for Donald Trump. All right. Again, thank you so much for listening, and I will speak at you next week.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.